Hey kiddos, so right now I'm going to teach you guys how to do a cool op art square spiral pattern. This is a really neat one to do. All you need is a straight edge and a pencil and then some stuff to color with or ink with. So right here what I'm doing is I'm just making a straight line inside of the first side of my square. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it from the corner to the opposite side, but I'm going to push it at a diagonal and have it be about, I don't know, a half inch or a quarter inch away from the corner. And every line I do next, I'm going to be drawing another square just a little bit off kilter every single time. And the way that I'm doing that is by just continuing that exact same pattern. You go from corner to side, with the spacing on that one far side being a quarter inch, let's say. And you just consistently make the next one spaced out a quarter inch, quarter inch, quarter inch, quarter inch. So you're always starting from the corner of the last angle that you made. So it's kind of a weird way to describe it. It's a lot easier for you just to watch that pattern being made. If you need to back up the video and turn my voice off for a second and just watch it happening a few times, go for it, because that will really help you. Now, I'm using a computer here that has a program that straightens my line for me, so it's a lot faster than using the straight edge. But the downside of it just is it's not going to create something physically for me immediately. I'd have to go to a printer or just have it on my screen. So it's not quite as cool as doing it in real life, in my opinion. But regardless, you can do that. If you feel really good, you can use another program to do this same way. But what I will do is in the comments, I'll post the program that I use for my drawing for like morning announcements and for these lessons, and I really enjoy. There is I think there's a free version of it, but the full paid version is only $5. So if you feel you can afford that, if you can give up, your Fortnite skin for one moment here, you could have a really awesome drawing program if you want it. I'm not trying to advertise for it, but this is a really good one, especially now that it's hard to get art materials to use. So it's called Procreate, and I'll put that in the comments there. So I'm just going to continue with this line pattern over and over and over and over. And what happens is as I keep twisting my square, it obviously forms a spiral pattern. So the fun thing too is that the smaller the square gets, the faster that spiraling pattern starts to emerge, because you have more angle relative to the size of the square that you're creating, or the rectangle in this case, because I didn't draw a perfect square. But to let you know, it doesn't need to be perfect, and you don't need to be perfect about your measurements. I'm just eyeballing these every single time, and you can tell some of them are thinner than others. Some of these wedges are a little bit wide in comparison to another one, and sometimes that makes the rectangle that I'm trying to make in the center a little bit more off kilter than I would like to be. But it doesn't really matter. As long as you're relatively consistent with this pattern, it will be very, very forgiving for you, which is a really good reason that I like to show this off, because it's really pretty low risk for the quality of pattern that you get. And remember, op art is all about being a playground for your eyes. And I would say that as this pattern really starts to get finished out here, you can tell, yeah, it's going to be cool to look at. So I'm going to polish off this pattern here just by continuing on to make that emerge. But the thing that I want you guys to know is that I'm going to add color to this. Now when I add color in a little bit here, when I finish this out, it's dropping it in. It's the computer. I'm telling it, I want all the pixels contained within this area to be turned red, blue, whatever. And it's a little kind of cheat mode way of coloring. It goes very, very fast. I would highly recommend colored pencils for this. So you do this thing in pencil and then go over it with Sharpie or a pen, and then use colored pencil to color it in. I think it's awesome to see those little color changes you can make in the pattern through that. Marker's fine. It's just a little bit more high risk, where if you make a mistake, you always have to go with a darker color if you want to hide it with marker. And then, if you needed to, crayon will work okay. Or if you just can't, if you got none of that, just a couple of colored ballpoint pens would be fine. Some blue, some red. Maybe if you get your hands on like a purple one or a black one, just to change it up a little bit. Green, you can find those in the ballpoints all the time. You just got to scrounge through all the little like shelves in your house to find these things. And keep them on hand, because we're going to keep using them. So here I go. I'm going to start dropping in some of the colors. And so what I like to tell the kids too, to save time, don't continue to switch colors every time. Use the same color and decide how often you're going to put it. So here I'm going, I'm going pink, then skip to pink, skip to pink. I zoomed in there so I could actually drop it in a little more easily as a screen, making the size a little more manageable. But Yeah, you can see, and there's that nice mistake where I actually filled the lines themselves. But anyways, you skip a square, and if you look close, I didn't even notice this yet here. But if you look close to the pattern that I just made, at the very end right there, I didn't skip two wedges. I did, pink instead of two white, and then another pink. I did pink, white, pink. So I made a mistake. And when I get to the point of realizing that I make it in about, I don't know, maybe a minute or so further, the funny thing about it is I just didn't really do anything about it. I was like, okay, this is really not going to damage my pattern. It's not going to really screw it up that much. I know it's there, but nobody else will really notice it. And it's still going to look very complete when it's done. So sometimes you just let mistakes be. Who cares? Sometimes they are significant and you find creative ways to solve that. But yeah. So the reason why I tell you to just continue on going pink, 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 and then skipping, a couple of those wedges, is because you don't have to cap up a marker. You don't have to switch the colors you're using. You don't have to think about, like, oh, what's the next color? You just kind of put yourself into that. So the next one I'm doing blue in the next set of wedges, because I do like changing them for any one of these spiraling wedges. I changed the colors. And this time I'm going blue, skip two, blue, skip two, blue. So I'm keeping the same designation of pattern of color, skip to color for both the pink and the blue. I'm just changing the colors, obviously, that I'm using for that. So I continue on with this method all the way through. One nice thing about doing color, skip to color, is that as you do the next one, you can just go to the next wedge, and it kind of takes your mind out of it. So like once you lay the pattern down one time, the rest of the colors you add, you are following the pattern further. It just makes life easier on you. And that's kind of one of the things you're going to do when you're doing anything like this. It's more kind of like pattern making meditative, is you figure out like, how do I more efficiently make this pattern? How do I make this, the most precise but also efficient way possible? And that's kind of a fun thing to do. It's like the high efficiency mode of art. So here I'm dropping in some orange. I chose orange to go with that kind of purpley pink because that kind of reddish orange is very complementary to the blue and like the purples that I would expect to see on the other side in the cool colors, but relatively analogous to that kind of orangey, purpley pink right there. And then you skip over the other side, and I still stick with orange, but this time, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's a little bit more of the same color palette of that blue right there because it's got less yellow and more red in it, and that actually pushes you closer towards the blue side of the color wheel. And yet, it is still a complementary color set, so it's still shocking. It still pops a lot, but just little changes like that. These colors look pretty good together, in my opinion. And honestly, I probably could have kept the white right there and just stopped here and been done, but I like having that feeling like all of the space is filled, so, me being me, I'm going to add some dark blue in this one. And then on the other side, if I remember correctly, I choose a darker purple, but we'll find out when we go and get that far. So anyways, what I'm trying to let you guys know here is that this is a really cool pattern for just doing all kinds of stuff. I used to actually do this, weirdly enough, because when you have a textbook, I don't even know if you guys barely get textbooks anymore, but we used to throw brown paper, like paper bag material, over the end of our textbooks, and I used to love, I drew mazes on my textbook covers, and I just did like all kinds of crazy, like the doodle drawings that said my art room on them. But one of the ones that I loved the most was one that when I discovered this pattern for the first time, the textbook itself is a rectangle. So I already had my canvas set up the way I needed it to. And so I just took a ruler and I made this pattern spiraling in. And one neat thing you can do that I did not do in this video is that you can actually add shading. So you can go over this when you're totally done with a pen or a pencil, and you can just color in darker and darker and darker and darker and darker until you get to the very center, that little dot of the spiral. And it makes this look not only very like cool, multicolored, crazy, but it also looks like it's going down in space away from you. And that is just a really neat thing. So I had kids look at my doodles like, whoa, looks like there's like a pit falling in there. I'm like, yeah, man, that's pretty cool. And yeah, and that's me doing voices of high school kids in the 90s, I guess. Anyways, oh, not even high school. Anyway, I digress. I chose a background color here. I thought black. I don't like how that matches the lines of the thing. And then I filled and realized that I then told the computer to fill both the inner lines and the outer lines. Tried the gray. Gray didn't work. I think I tried this yellow, and the yellow is the worst choice of all. If you want to see this, blah, it looks like mustard. And so I finally settled on this kind of like berry purple color that kind of went with everything else. And yeah, that's it. I think it's really cool looking, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Goodbye.